Russia's president has confirmed an armed uprising is underway by Yevgeny Prigozhin, head of the Wagner mercenary group. In a national address, Vladimir Putin called it a betrayal and vowed a harsh response. Prigozhin says he wants to oust Russia's military leadership and claims to have taken control of key military sites in the southern city of Rostov-on-Don. This includes the region's military headquarters, a key logistical base for Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Kremlin is urging fighters in the Wagner Group to abandon their leader. President Putin also said decisive action will be taken to stabilize the situation in Rostov-on-Don.
Actions that split our unity are an abandonment of our people, of our comrades in arms who are now fighting in the front. This is a stab in the back of our country and our people.
As Russia authorities declare a counter-terrorist operation in Moscow, Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin says his troops are prepared to fight to the bitter end. We welcome now Nikolai Petrov, a researcher specialized in Russian politics who works for the German Institute for International and Security Affairs. You have been following these latest developments in Russia. What do you make of Putin's speech?
I would say that Putin's speech looks like it has been prepared in a hurry. Putin looked rather anxious, weared black tie. And I think it's understandable that Putin himself is perhaps the reason why this conflict, which was developing for several weeks, did take this bloody shape.
Prigozhin claims his troops have entered Russian territory, particularly in Rostov-on-Don. What would be the significance of that?
It's pretty significant because it's from where military command is going on and where the Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, and the commander of the operation, Gerasimov, were staying until very recently. And it plays also the symbolic role. Rostov-on-Don is one of the biggest cities in Russia, and the fact that Wagner Group controls all military headquarters and the airport, military airport, means that they can negotiate from the position of the fourth.
Prigozhin's actions follow, as you know, his claims that Russia launched military attacks against his own men. Any reason to doubt those claims? And why would Russia launch attacks against the men who have largely spearheaded Russia's offensive in Ukraine?
First of all, Russia in this war looks more like a mafia state when different military units, which are not necessarily subordinated to military command, like Prigozhin's mercenaries or Ramzan Kadyrov, the president of Chechnya troops, do participate. So when speaking Russia, we should have in mind that Prigozhin says that it has been done by military command, and he's in a very sharp conflict with the military command. There are doubts that, his positions were bombed, but anyway, the conflict was developing and taking pretty intensive shape day by day in course of several weeks.
Prigozhin's criticisms have consistently been directed at Russia's military leadership. But should his words and actions now be seen as a direct challenge at Putin as leader of the Russian state?
Yes, absolutely. And perhaps this is how Putin himself did see this conflict. And Putin likes the option of manipulated or managed conflict. And this is exactly what he used in case of opposing military by Wagner private military company. But at a time of war, it doesn't work well, and it didn't work well in this particular case. And although Prigozhin all the time was trying to say that he is fighting against the military command, but all other agencies can continue the war, and he doesn't want somehow to criticize the president of Russia. In general, what he is doing and what he is saying is, well, damaging Putin's position, of course.
I'm really curious, how likely is it Prigozhin would make such a bold move like this without knowing he had some measure, even as small as it might be, some measure of support?
First of all, I would like to say that Prigozhin's Wagner Group was fighting in African countries for several years, and the way how he is habitually managing conflicts is perhaps taken by him out of there. But you are right, I am sure that Prigozhin is a front man, but he could not act in a way he acts without serious support from a side perhaps of some higher-ranked military who are not happy with how military command is going on, with a kind of security services as well.
With Prigozhin now turning his focus inwardly towards Russia, towards Moscow specifically, what will that mean for Russia's war in Ukraine, which, again, up until now, he has largely spearheaded?
It's very important how exactly the conflict will end. And the fact that Putin took a side means that the decision has been made to stop Prigozhin not to reach any kind of compromise. And it creates understandable problems for the Kremlin, because right now Prigozhin controls Rostov-on-Don, which is a huge city, and perhaps some more cities in southern Russia. And of course, although Prigozhin stresses that well, the military operation in Ukraine should go on, and he will return immediately when fixing the problem with military command, it's understandable that Russian military are now semi-paralyzed.
I realize this next question is pure speculation, but I'm going to ask you to play prognosticator. You've been watching events in Russia for years now. How do you see this issue resolving itself a week or even a year from now? What is likely to be the outcome here?
I think that the Kremlin still has enough power to stop Prigozhin, and in my view, it's a matter of days, if not hours. But regardless of this, the shock which is already here will influence the way how Putin treats and how Russia in general is organizing this war in Ukraine.
Okay, thank you very, very much. That is Nikolai Petrov, Senior Research Fellow at Chatham House.
My pleasure.